Hi guys, I'm going to go ahead and do number 9 on page 126 as promised, and what I'm dealing with is h of x equals the square root of x over x cubed plus 1. I'm going to rewrite this with my square root of x as an exponent, which is x to the 1/2 over x cubed plus 1. I'm trying to find my derivative, and as a reminder, when I have f of x over g of x, my quotient rule tells me what I need to do is take the derivative of my first times the denominator minus the derivative of the denominator times my first. And I kind of like to keep everything in the original order, but obviously you're multiplying. You don't have to keep in that order. And then I'm dividing this by g of x squared. Okay, so just as a reminder, that's my formula, and that will kind of help you keep things in check. Taking the derivative of my numerator using the power rule, it's 1/2 x to the negative 1/2, because I have 1/2 minus 2/2, or minus 1, which gives me negative 1/2. I'm multiplying this by my denominator, which is x cubed plus 1. Subtracting that, and what I'm going to subtract is my numerator, x to the 1/2, times the derivative of my denominator, again using my power rule, gives me 3x squared. Remember, my 1 drops out because the derivative of a constant is 0. This is all divided by x cubed plus 1 squared. All right, next what I want to do is simplify my numerator. I already see some little issues here, and one of them is I've got a negative exponent, I've got a fraction. So this is going to be a lot of fun here. And what I have is 1/2 x to negative 1/2 times x to the third. I'm using my distributive property. X to the third is the same thing as saying 6/2. X to the third is the same as x to the 6/2. So when I add that together, remember I add exponents when I multiply, what I get is 1/2 x to the 5/2. I'm going to add, distributing 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 times 1 gives me 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. And then I'm going to subtract this product, which is x to the 1/2 times 3x squared is the same thing as looking at 4 over 2. Adding that up gives me, again, x to the 5/2. I already see I'm going to have some like terms, so that's kind of nice that that's going to pan out for me. The thing that's not so nice is I still have fractions and I still have a negative exponent. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to rewrite my numerator because I'm going to try and simplify this monster. What I have is x to the 5/2 over 2 plus 1 over 2 times x to the 1/2 minus 3x to the 5/2 over 1. And I don't want to forget my denominator. Now, if it helps you to rewrite the numerator off to the side and work all of this out first and then plug it back in, that's fine. Just make sure that you label that that's your numerator. Otherwise, what you might end up doing is doing all that work and then forgetting to come back in and add this part here, which is, of course, extremely important. Okay, so coming back to this, I see that I have a common denominator for my numerator of 2x to the 1/2. This means that for my first value, I need to multiply times x to the 1/2. And for my last value, I need to multiply times 2x to the 1/2. You're going to see this is going to work out nicely from here on out. X to the 1/2 times x to the 5/2 gives me, adding the exponents, x to the 6/2. And what do you know? X to the 6/2 is equal to x cubed. This is, of course, over 2x to the 1/2. I'm going to add 1 over 2x to the 1/2. And to that, I'm going to subtract 3 times 2, which gives me 6. X to the 5/2 times x to the 1/2. Again, I'm going to add exponents. That gives me x to the 6/2, which is equal to 3. So, again, 6x cubed this is also divided by 2x to the 1/2. I'm rewriting everything like this, okay? Next up, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add straight across, add my like terms. That gives me negative 6x cubed plus x cubed is negative 5x cubed. Adding 1, setting this over to x to the 1/2. Now I'm going to rewrite this quotient, this fraction over a fraction, as a fraction multiplied by the denominator's reciprocal, which is 1 over x cubed plus 1 squared. This results in my final answer, which is negative 5x cubed plus 1 divided by 2x to the 1/2. You could also rewrite this as the square root of x. I would count either one for full credit. Times x cubed plus 1 quantity squared. And that is your final answer for the derivative for h of x.